This isn't any ordinary old fashioned, this is a hazelnut old fashioned, and this week I'm going to show you how to make it. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Matt, I'm a whiskey nerd, and this week we're making a hazelnut old fashioned. Now, if you're a regular watcher, you know that I love an old fashioned cocktail because it's just such a versatile drink. By changing out the spirit, by changing out your sweetness, you're going to get a completely different drink. For example, you can make a revolver which has a coffee liqueur in it to add that sweetness, or you can make an amaretto or an almond old fashioned which uses Di Serono. But this week we're going for a hazelnut old fashioned that uses Frangelico. Frangelico is a really interesting liqueur, and as well, it has a very distinctive bottle. So this is actually made by a set of monks up in the Italian Alps in Piedmont, and the bottle looks kind of like a monk with the arms with this little kind of tie to it. And what it tastes like is really unique. So it's got this kind of hazelnut, kind of caramel, kind of vanilla, maybe chocolatey coffee note to it. It's got like a really nice rich hazelnut aroma to it, but then behind that is just loads of vanilla, kind of really rich, sweet creaminess to it. It's just very sweet, very rich, very like thick. It's kind of almost reminds me, the very first time I had it, it reminded me of a kind of a hazelnut custard or a hazelnut pudding. Like there's a really nice kind of dense vanilla note underneath that hazelnut, and that kind of has this creaminess which kind of reminds me almost like of a really creamy milk chocolate or a really like milky coffee. So I think it goes really well in cocktails where you do need a bit of sweetness. So instead of sugar syrup for this drink, we'll be using Frangelico. For our bourbon, we're going to be using Maker's Mark. Maker's Mark is one of my favorite bourbons to use in an old fashioned. I think it comes through with a nice bit of flavour, a nice bit of spice, a bit of oak, while still delivering like 45% ABV. So it's going to be dominant in the cocktail, but it's not going to be overpowering. You're going to know you're drinking whiskey without that being all you can taste. For our bitters, we'll be using Angostura classic bitters, and then we'll just be garnishing with classic Luxardo maraschino cherry. Like, this is an old fashioned, you should know how to make it at this point, so let's not waste any more time, let's get right into it. So it is a stirred drink, so we're going to get our mixing glass and we're going to pop a nice rock of ice into there to kind of get the whole thing chilled down nicely. So we're going to get our Maker's Mark bourbon, and we're going to go in with 2 ounces of Maker's Mark. Now you could go in with a little bit more or a little bit less depending on how you like it, but I like the ratio of just 2 ounces. I like it keeping it nice and simple. So we're going to go in with 2 ounces of Maker's Mark bourbon, and we're going to follow that up with half an ounce of Frangelico. Now you can go in with a bit more if you like it sweeter. I think Frangelico is nice and sweet. You go in with 25, you go in with a full ounce if you want. I'm going to go in with maybe just more than half an ounce, maybe about 20 ml of Frangelico. This nice, rich hazelnut liqueur is going to give us plenty of sweetness. And then it's just 2 dashes of Angostura bitters, and we're going to stir it down for about 30 seconds. We don't really want to dilute it too much, but we do want to get it nice and chilled, so we're going to get our nice spoon, we're going to stir it down, get everything mixed through, and get it chilled. So about 30 seconds. Okay, I think that's nicely chilled. I can feel the outside of the glass is nice and cold now. So we're going to get our nice glass, and we're going to get a nice fresh rock of ice, and pop that in there. And then it's very simple, we're just going to strain it off on top of that nice fresh rock of ice. I can kind of smell that nice hazelnut coming through. It's a nice kind of subtle scent. But for our garnish, we're going to go in with just 1 Luxardo maraschino cherry. This is going to add a nice extra bit of sweetness, a bit of kind of roundness to the cocktail, and just add another bit of complexity to it, because it's not the most complex of cocktails like an old fashioned. It's very simple, and this is just going to add a nice little bit of a different hint to the cocktail. And there you have it, a hazelnut old fashioned. This, I think, is a nice cocktail. I love simplicity in my drinks, so I think just having that nice rock of ice, having that cherry, I think you can see it there, the liqueur from the cherry, from the maraschino cherry, just kind of spreading out on the bottom. I think it's a nice kind of visual look to the cocktail, but the most important part is how does it taste. So cheers. That's nice. Like I said, the Maker's Mark, it's got enough presence to come through. You know you're drinking whiskey. You got that bit of oak, you got that bit of a bite there, bit of spice, but then that sweetness comes through. Frangelico, it has a nice kind of note, like that hazelnut note. It's very hard to cover up nuttiness in any drink, especially hazelnut. I think it's got a nice powerful flavour behind it, and that really stands up to the Maker's Mark. It is kind of subtle, like it is nice roundness, and like the vanilla in the Frangelico I think pairs really well with the kind of vanilla notes you do get in a bourbon. Like it's a really, really nice drink. And then you get that little bit of Angostura bitters, just adding a bit of roundness. There's a little hint of cherry coming through. I mean, some bourbons do have that taste of cherry coming through. I do get it sometimes on the Maker's Mark. So that maraschino cherry coming through, the little bit of liqueur coming through there, I think it's a really nice rounded cocktail. So let me know in the comments below, what's your favourite twist on an old fashioned? Do you like it just a straight up old fashioned, or do you like a revolver? Do you like an almond old fashioned? Do you like a hazelnut old fashioned, or do you like something completely different? Like I said, the old fashioned is a very, very versatile cocktail. I mean, it's easy to play around with this recipe and just get a completely different drink. There are countless different ways you can make an old fashioned, and it's really fun to see different ways different people make their old fashions. But this one is all for me. Now, I put out new cocktail recipes every Friday and new whiskey reviews every Wednesday, so subscribe and you'll see them all. And until next time, sláinte.